Yastyaktvā rūpamadhyam prabhavati jagataha anikadha anugrahaya prakshina klesharashihi vishama vishadharaha Anekavaktra subhogi sarvajnana prasutihi bhojaga parikaraha pritaye yasya nityam devo hisha savo vyat Sita vimalatanuhu yogado yogayuktaha yogena chittasya padena vacham malam sharirasya cha vaidyakena Yopakarotam pravaram muninam Patanjalim pranjaliranatosmi Abahu purushakaram Shankhachakrasidharinam Sahasrashirasam Shvetam Pranamami Patanjalim Srimate Anantaya Nagarajaya Namo Namaha Patanjala Mahabhashya Charaka Pratisamskritaihi Manovakaya Doshanam Hartre Ahipataye Namaha So, very warm greetings, my friends. We are today going to discuss the Sutra 139, Yatha Abhimata Dhyanadva. So far, starting from the Sutra 123 onwards, Patanjali has been giving us a lot of insights into how to make the mind a bit more calm, bit more towards the state of Nirodha. And so different tools have been discussed and we have seen this in the last weeks. He concludes by giving one very universally open statement, a very universally open method through this sutra, Yathabhimata Dhyanadva. He says, okay, you tried Ishvara, maybe it didn't work. You tried Pranayama, maybe it didn't work. You tried sleeping, analyzing the sleep and dreams, maybe it didn't work. So, he gives another statement saying, choose any means that is appropriate that will work. This is the universality of yoga system. Yoga is not dogmatic, where it says you must only do this kind of method and not any other kind of method. Yoga is saying you must try anything that will work, that is appropriate. That is the key. Abhimata. It's a very powerful and interesting word, this word called Abhimata. We will explore further about this sutra now. Yatha Abhimata. Abhimata is a very fascinating word. Mata means almost like a system or a path. Abhimatam means that which is appropriate. That which is appropriate for oneself. I often think about the application of this sutra in the most amazing manner, and I would like to share two examples of this that I have seen in my learning with my own teacher, Sri T.K.V. Desikachar. There was one man, a young man, who came to see Sir, my father, for consultation for yoga therapy, and this man was always having a lot of problems with his migraine. He always got migraine and it was very painful for him. He could not work. So this man was European and he had heard about my father, and so he came to India to spend some time because he was anyway not having a job. So he had free time. So he came to Chennai to stay for a few months to seek help, to see if something can happen. So of course, as usual, my father had a conversation with him and took his pulse, etc., and probably saw many things into the man's psyche. What he found out was that this man was a perennial pessimist, a very negative person. Everything was wrong. When my father asked him to talk about his native country, it was wrong. He was talking about India, everything was wrong. He talked about his family, everything was wrong. The family was terrible. He talked about his job, everything was always bad, not good. He could never see anything in a positive manner. So, and he was also coming with in this negative frame of mind, and you know, Chennai and India is not a very quiet country, and so for somebody with migraines it can be very difficult, especially coming from Europe, which is quite quiet, to come to Chennai, which is very noisy. And he was staying in New Woodlands Hotel, which is a very busy hotel, and very often there is marriages and marriage parties and celebrations, so there is all the nadaswaram and the drums and all that, which was very difficult for him to deal with. So this man was even very agitated, even just staying. So my father could know very easily that this person could not really do much yoga techniques like asana and pranayama and things like that, because he was so agitated, he could not focus. Plus, more importantly, excuse me, his migraine was so intense. He had so much pain. So my father thought, okay, we have to be a bit more different in helping him, and where and how to find inspiration. He found inspiration in this sutra, Yathabhimata Dhyanadva. So he called out to me. In those days I had begun photography, so I had a small camera. He called out to me and he said, "Oh Kausthub, bring your camera." So I thought, okay, he was going to ask me to take photograph of one of his students. Maybe I am getting a chance to make some nice portraits. So he asked me to leave the camera with him, and he said, "Okay, now you can go." I said, "Okay." So I went. And then after the session, when my father came out of the room, I asked him, "Sir, can I have my camera back?" He said, "No, I gave it to him." I said, "What?" I was a bit agitated. I said, "You gave away my camera?" He said, "Oh, don't worry. You know, you can always get another camera. Poor man, he is suffering." This was the generosity of my father at the cost of other people like me. You know, the joke about, I feel very happy that my father gave him this camera, because my father gave this man a simple assignment. He said, "Take this camera and go take some pictures of anything you find symmetric and come back in about 3 weeks' time." And this man said, "Sir, I come to learn yoga." My father had told him, "You go do this and then I will teach you yoga." So this man, he was a bit shocked, because you know, many Western people, they don't have this thing about faith in a teacher. They don't understand what is the role of the teacher and things like that. This man was a bit agitated about that, and he was also complaining to me, this man, outside the class. He was saying, oh, I came to your father to learn some yoga for my migraine, and he gives one camera, a useless camera, and he's asking me to take pictures. I said, what do you mean useless camera? He said, oh, it's a second-hand camera. It's used, and see how much scratches it has and this and that. I said to him, my friend, that's my camera. So he was complaining about this. I told him, look, you have come for something. You have not got any job now. You are having free time in Chennai. You don't know anybody in Chennai. He has given you an assignment. Do it. And then maybe he will teach you something which is good for you. Perhaps he is testing your sincerity. This is what I told him. I was completely wrong. My father was not at all testing this man's sincerity. 3 weeks later, this man comes with wonderful, wonderful photographs in a very nice blown up size of whatever he found symmetric. It was so amazing photographs. So my father called me to show the pictures as well, and I was so amazed because I have had this camera and I have not taken such beautiful photographs. So my father said, look, all the nice photographs he has made. And then at the end I was seeing it, and as I was seeing it and my father was talking to this guy, my father asked him one question. In these 3 weeks, how many days you had migraine or headaches? And that man said, sir, actually I never had migraine or headache. And my father said to him, this is your yoga. This is what you needed. And you don't need any more techniques. Go back, you can go home now, you are cured. I was a bit shocked as well because I was also an observer to this. I thought this man was going to complain because usually he is complaining. And I said, 3 weeks he has given the assignment, and he said, I will teach you some yoga at the end of 3 weeks. And I thought, okay, now he is not teaching him any techniques, he is going to complain. But this man is not complaining. He said, oh, thank you very much, sir, I'm so happy. And he left very happily because his migraine had disappeared. So I asked my father, what is this? What did you do to him? Why you asked him to do? My father said, this is what Patanjali explains in the sutra, Yatha Abhimata Dhyanadva. We have to choose things that are appropriate for that person to help them where they are. This man, when he came, he was so disturbed and so much in pain, he could never practice anything. If I had given him some practice, if he raises the arms, he is going to complain about his headache. If I asked him to do pranayama, it would have been very intense for him. He would have complained, he would have had more suffering. I said, so why did you give him photography? Is photography yoga? He said, I did not give him photography. My tool was to change his perception. His problem was because he was very negative. That's why his system was very anxious, because everything was wrong. So for me, my focus for him was to change his perception from seeing everything negatively to seeing things positively. So looking at things which are somehow in symmetry in Chennai is not easy. Even our straight line in the traffic road is not straight, it is lightly at an angle. It's not easy to see symmetry. But he had to find symmetry in this environment which is very chaotic. For such a thing to happen, his perception had to change. The moment the perception changes, he doesn't start looking at things always negatively, he starts looking at things positively. The direction of energy changes, his heart and mind opens rather than closes, and therefore he is more relaxed, and all his problems like headache and all this disappears because his nervous system is not always stressed. This is the application of the sutra, Yatha Abhimata Dhyanadva. At times we have to choose whatever mechanism is appropriate to help stabilize the mind. It doesn't mean that photography is a yoga technique. The change of perception is a yoga technique. The means could be anything else as well. You could ask the person to do some paintings, you could ask the person to do some drawings, things like that. So this is the universal application of yoga and the openness of yoga. Yoga is not a dogmatic science where it says only these tools are working, no other tools should be considered. We have to be careful. We have to choose appropriate tools that are useful to that person, not harmful. When we talk about things like openness and freedom, we have to be very careful because people can always abuse such statements and do whatever they want. That's why the word is abhimata, what is appropriate, not what you like. Patanjali does not say do what you like. This is why Shankaracharya, one of the commentators on Yogasutra, beautifully writes, abhimata is not based on whether the tool is going to give you sukham or dukkham. It's not based on pleasure or pain. Basically, he is saying it's not based on sensory attraction. It's not sensorily, I like smoking, so I will use smoking as pranayama to relax my mind. That is not correct approach. Somebody can say that, I don't smoke, but somebody can say, I like smoking. I want to use pranayama as my relaxation. I want to play very violent video games. This is relaxing me. It's not what is appropriate. It's not based on sensory experience. Shankaracharya clearly says that. It is based on what is appropriate. Abhimata. Abhimata means it is intimately fitting what is needed. Sometimes a person who is a go-getter, who wants to achieve a lot, is very stressed. And the stress takes away our energy. So the person wants more energy to work. So what do they do nowadays? They go to a wonderful place called Starbucks, get a coffee with double shot, triple shot, 4 shots and drink. So the caffeine makes them even more excited. So they work and work because they like coffee. I like coffee, it gives me energy, so I am doing it. This is not abhimata because it is not appropriate to the body, because in the long term it will create lots of problems, like you could get cancer because of excess caffeine, you could get burnout, you could get stress, you could get ulcers, different things can happen. That is not abhimata. Abhimata is what is appropriate. And this is very, very important for us to remember. That's why Acharyas like Vyasa, Acharyas like Krishnamacharya, they all add one line saying, Yatha Shastre Abhimate. What is consistent with the Shastras? Shastras means traditional classical texts and classical teachings. Now, that means somebody can ask this question. So, has photography been introduced in the Shastras? Once again a reminder, photography is a medium. The tool was change of perception from negative to positive. That is always appropriate. Today it's appropriate, yesterday it's appropriate, tomorrow it will also be appropriate. The means was to change perception, not to take photography. Somebody could be asked to write a letter, write 4 positive things every day. This could be their means, it may not be photography. But still the tool is change of perception, not writing a letter. This is very, very important to remember, that we have to look at what is behind the tool, not the tool itself. And tool is only a tool that takes us to a goal, and once we have reached the goal, it's no more needed. And again, I would like to share a story. That again I have observed with my father's genius, how he was not at all attached to a tool, and when teaching the students, he was teaching them not to get attached to a tool. Very revolutionary, because this involves some Indian deities. Indians are very attached to their deities. Somebody says, no more meditate on Hanuman, change Hanuman to Ganesha, people get agitated because they like Hanuman, they have attached to Hanuman. So one boy came, very young boy, about 18, 19 years old. This boy came, and he was brilliant in his university education. He was so brilliant, so smart. And he got admission to go to pursue his higher studies in the US. This is way back in the 90s when America was still the most popular destination for graduate students from India. Now it's New Zealand and Australia and other things have come, but in the 90s it was America or nowhere else. So this boy got admission to one of the top universities with full scholarship and all that. But there was a problem. This boy was afraid of flying in a plane. He could not sit in a plane. He had great fear, he had a phobia. Even if a plane is flying high, he would be afraid, sitting on the floor. So how is this fellow going to go to America? You know, he could take a ship, but it takes a long time. And his parents were extremely concerned because this boy was very brilliant and he did not, they did not want his chance to be lost. So again somebody had told him, maybe you should go and see Sir Desikachar, he could help you. So the parents brought this young boy to my father, and I was also observing the session that my father had with him. My father talked to him and tried to motivate him, and the boy had a lot of fear. So my father said, okay, I will help you to try to help you to go to America, but you should practice this every day. And he gave him a meditation on Hanuman. Because in our mythology, and this boy was a Brahmin boy, and he believed in Hanuman and Indian deities. And in Indian mythology, Hanuman is one who flew from India to Sri Lanka, and he just with one jump. And Hanuman is the representation of courage, not fear. So his name is also Dhira, which means courage. So my father asked him to meditate on Hanuman, and he designed a very beautiful practice, and he taught this young boy meditation on Hanuman. And this boy was so sincere, he diligently practiced it. Within a month and a half, he got the confidence and he flew to America, and he started to study and finished his graduation, and he started working and all that. And this happened. Few years later, he started flying so much for his job. It was unbelievable. But then another problem happened, or another circumstance arose. And one time when he came to India, his parents brought him back to my father and said, sir, you have to help us again. My father said, what happened? He is already in America and he is happy and all that. And the boy also said, sir, I am very happy. I have no more fear. I am flying every day to my work. My job is asking me to fly every week. I have no problem flying, sir, thanks to you and all this. So my father said, what is the problem? So the mother said, sir, he is not marrying anybody, sir. We are sending him so many pictures of the prospective girls. He is rejecting everybody, And my father asked the boy, why? He said, sir, I like to be alone, sir. I like to be single, like Hanuman, he said. So immediately my father got the clue. He said, are you still practicing that Hanuman practice? And the boy said, yes, sir, every day I do not miss it. Now this is the Yatabhimata comes here. Now Hanuman was appropriate for confidence. But Hanuman is not the appropriate tool for a relationship, because Hanuman is a bachelor. And in India, in Vedic science, they say that meditation is a process where you take on the qualities of what you are meditating. So if you are meditating on Hanuman, you get his confidence, correct? But you also get his other attributes, which is he is a brahmachari. He is not interested in relationships except to Rama. So this is a problem. So my father immediately said, my father told him, okay, look, this meditation has been working. But now, and my father was always very smart in communication. He said, look, and this boy was a software engineer, so he talked to him in a software language. He said, I will upgrade your practice. Very good practice I will give you. Version 2.0. 2.0, he asked this boy to meditate on Lord Kartikeya, which is the son of Shiva, who has 2 wives. Very interesting. No? So the boy said, okay. And you will not believe, he very diligently practiced, and within a few months he was open to getting married. And he got married, and they invited us to the wedding, and we all went. And at the marriage day, when you are all taking photographs with the bride and the groom, and this is in India, it's very common. My father, when he met this boy, he told the boy, you have to come and meet me as soon as you have finished your honeymoon, you come and meet me. So the boy said, okay, sir. So after the honeymoon, my father comes, this boy comes to meet my father. My father said, we have to upgrade your practice now again. And then he gave him the practice of Rama, meditation on Rama. Because Kartikeya has 2 wives, he didn't want this boy to have slowly interest in having a second wife now that he is married. So this is no more abhimata. It has fulfilled its purpose of getting a very strong bachelor who is rejecting all the women to slowly accept the concept of a relationship with somebody, and this boy got married, so it has achieved its purpose. Immediately there was a need to change so that this does not become more detrimental. So immediately he changed, and Rama is well known for his commitment to his wife, and so this practice became the boy's practice after this. This is again an example of yathabhimata. What is appropriate at one place, at one time, need not be appropriate in another place, in another time, for another purpose. And what determines appropriateness is the purpose we want to achieve and the qualities of the practitioner rather than the tool itself. For example, there may be 2 people, and we want these 2 people to achieve a state of, let us say, balanced communication. One person is very introverted and shy, and that person does not express at all what they want to say. Another person is talking too much, and they need to calm down. So both of them, we want to bring them to a balanced communication level. One, we want to increase their capacity to communicate. The other, we want to reduce their capacity of communication, reduce too much communication. So you cannot ask a shy person to do a practice that will make them more shy. For example, for the shy person to become a bit more expressive and gain more power rather than be very shy and timid, we can think about a practice on a deity like Durga, the goddess who is so strong and so powerful and expressing her voice in a very strong way. Now this may elevate the shy person to be a bit more expressive. But if we give that same Durga to a person who is already very extroverted, already talking too much, already very aggressive, this will not be useful. For such a person, we can perhaps think about a deity like Goddess Saraswati, who is a very calm, quiet person, who measures her voice. But the same Saraswati will not work for the shy person. This is what is yatha abhimata. Yatha abhimata. What is appropriate in one context for one person need not be appropriate for another person in another context. Previous example. what is appropriate for the same person in one context need not be appropriate for another person in another context. So that's why Yatha Abhimata should consider factors like Kala and Desha as well. It's not just the tool. In the modern era, we have seen that the society has come to such a point that we have the capacity to get attached to tools and techniques. And this is a problem. Even in the yoga field, this is what is happening. People are attached to one kind of yoga because this is promoting this kind of technique. I want to do dynamic asana, so I want to do this. So it's a product that is based on technique. I want to do dynamic asana, I go to this school. I want to do asana in a hot room, I go to another room, another school. Product differentiation has come into yoga, but yoga is not a product. So we are getting attached to technology and tools of yoga, which yoga itself is reminding us they are only meant to serve a purpose. They are not yoga. They are tools of yoga. And when we get attached to the tools of yoga, this is a problem. A classic example, when Acharya Krishnamacharya was teaching young boys and girls in the Himalaya, in the Mysore palace, he taught them dynamic asanas, because when we are young, the body's dominant guna is kapha guna, kapha dosha, and therefore it needs dynamic movements to bring it to a balance. So for young people, he taught dynamic movements, dynamic practices. But at the same time, in the palace, when you would go and teach the king or the ministers or the family of the kings, etc., who are adults, who are not in the youth, he was not teaching them the same dynamic asanas. He was teaching them differently. But see what has happened. Some of the people who learned from him at that time, that is what they received, because they didn't have greater contact with Acharya Krishnamacharya to learn all other aspects of yoga, to learn all other details of yoga. They got attached to that technique and they started teaching that to people who are now doing it irrespective of their age. And this is not healthy, because it is not appropriate at all ages. Sometimes some people may not even be able to do asana, but they can still do yoga. A person who is in a wheelchair may not be able to do asana. It does not mean that he or she is unfit for yoga, because asana is not yoga. Asana is one tool of yoga. That person in a wheelchair can do pranayama. That person in the wheelchair can do meditation. That person in the wheelchair can do mantra japa, which are all other tools of yoga. So yoga is not limited to one set of techniques, and that is unfortunately how it is marketed nowadays, where people are not doing appropriate application of yoga. That's why standardization of yoga tools is actually inconsistent with the very philosophical teachings of yoga, and it must not be done. When we are standardizing something, we are insulting yoga's teachings, and Patanjali will start to roll in the grave. We don't want that, because poor man has given us such a great gift. We need to respect him and let him in peace and appreciate his teachings, rather than diminish this value by marketing yoga as a set of standardized techniques and methods. Yathabhimata Dhyanadva is a sutra that shows us the universality of yoga, the openness of yoga, that we must be willing to consider any appropriate means to help people achieve a quiet state of mind, and must not be dogmatic or fanatic about what one or two techniques of yoga.